he's subservient to us,
Right, but that makes it, the word, adding the word final there makes it absolute. There's no question about who is subservient to who in determining completeness.
All right, you know what, I'm thinking, the more we talk about this, the more I'm inclined to leave it. I mean, initially I was thinking, I think this is not taking away the appeals board. It is the local authority.
Right.
And then the appeals board is to determine whether or not they're compliant.
That doesn't take their authority away.
No, it doesn't.
No.
Okay, leave it. But we should provide an explanation for what we're doing there for the record.
Yeah, because that is basically what we do.
Right. And maybe we'll make a comment that says something like the planning board doesn't feel this takes away any authority of the appeals board.
Yeah.
Pretty much is stating what we do.
I agree with that. The word final might scare it.
But we're gonna leave it in anyway,
Well,
right?
it's
I don't have a problem with that.
only with regarding the completeness of submissions. That
Right.
doesn't mean that somebody can't appeal that just the same, but people can appeal anything in our legal system.
Yeah, you can always appeal the final determination.
Right. All right. Article 3.1.3.
See, the commitment to sustainable use of natural resources and open space. What is her comments?
Well, her comment is, she says by,
Remove the last sentence, you remove the entire notion of commitment.
That, my comment to that is the removed sentence has nothing to do with the commitment of sustainability. That is addressed in the following paragraph.
right,
It's just a fairly verbose statement of
Yeah, I mean, if it's in there or there, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference, right?
but the actual commitment is in the second paragraph, not even in the, which we made no changes to.
so I'll go with that comment. You sent it to me. Okay. Balancing of property rights.
Is this the way she sent it to you?
Yeah, I think
Just
so.
all around, huh?
Yeah, she did. Maybe I could have done better.
Well, which article are we on now, or that?
Back to 1 point. They might have been resorted too. Article
135,
135.
again, 21.
No, or 133, balancing property rights.
Oh, and 133.
Right, 133.
What her comments are?
She said, omission of the last part of the sentence means half the rights balance. Owner has a right to use their land, omits the abutter neighbor's right to enjoy their land without undue disturbance. Affirms development right, omits enjoyment right.
What are you using for a standard?
This stuff is stuff that had been brought out, I don't know, came from the land use ordinance, or from the comprehensive plan language. Is that right, Bruce? Now you've read it again? These thoughts are coming out of the comprehensive plan.
a lot of them are, but a lot of them also are just whatever she wrote.
Uh,
A whole lot of it.
Like you plagiarized, I mean, he went through a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I need to look at the original.
We just,
My comment here from looking at the original today was the first part of the sentence addresses balancing property rights, an appropriate function of government. The second part that we removed imposes an impossible standard so that wide interpretation having nothing to do with balance of property rights. In fact, it gives a lot of power to anyone that wants to say, I don't like what my neighbor is doing.
I don't see how it's bad just to have it simple. You can read that again, to protect property rights and values by balancing the rights of landowners to use their land, respecting the corresponding rights of abutting and neighboring landowners. I mean, all landowners should be on a par.
Yeah, but then the part we took out was to enjoy their property without undue disturbance from the budding or neighboring uses. Okay? Everybody has a different interpretation of enjoy their property and not undue disturbance.
Right. So this is what happened. I mean, I actually lived through this directly, okay? So I had my camp over on Scott Point Road, and we had the,
Common sense out of it.
what's the face used to live there way back, the Knaps. Okay, first the Knaps owned it. Then the Knaps from up in Bradley, they'd owned that property for like over 50 years, right? Their family got too old or whatever, didn't want to own it anymore, nobody in the family wanted it. So they sold it to two landowners who basically were never there, all right? Then the second landowner sold it to Josh's mother-in-law, okay? And it was Easter, it was a late Easter that year. And the first thing they did is they came up and they put up a fence between our property, which there had never been there before, a tall, bright, white plastic fence, stockade fence. And then they put in an above-ground pool. And then all these kids came over with motorcycles, little kids, like, that shouldn't have been on motorcycles. And they rode around and around and around and around and around their lot until it looked like a racetrack around the swimming pool. Now, to me, that really was a pain in the neck. I did not enjoy that. However, some people I brought it up to said, yeah, that sucks. And some people I brought it up to said, they're just kids having fun. I'm just saying.
Hey,
Anyway,
I've got a neighbor right now,
leave it in
I've
there.
got some neighbors right now that like to have parties up to 1 o'clock at night. And it's a case of, I can hear them. Okay, do we want to start writing? You know what? That's part of why some people live out in the country.
so,
But should we be writing it into here that we want to, you can start having anybody come and say, I want to put something in because you say you're going to protect me from undue disturbance. And to me, undue disturbance is they have kids.
right, but I know, I mean,
This is where you get all of these ordinances that you lived under in Western Virginia.
I just don't want to set up a situation. I just don't feel, I think the way it was written, it creates a situation for code enforcement to be constantly called by a badgering neighbor.
And that's why we voted to remove that
Right.
second part of it. I hate some of these really, how can I, I'm trying to think, wishy-washy or terms that everybody has a different definition of. Or any term that simply is, if I don't like it, that's it. Or if I say this, that's it. It gets you in a situation of,
I think if you leave it out, you still can fall back on, disturbing the peace laws.
well, again, this doesn't eliminate anything from criminal or legal matters.
Yeah.
It just means Yeah, where is the line, especially in a rural town like this,
Should,
where you start writing ordinances to
right, we
address
should be
things?
legislating interpretation of what is a disturbing act.
See, I mentioned this, I think, to someone else, but what we have, when you're talking about a town like Clifton, yeah, I think anyway, what you have is you have several different types of people that are drawn to a town like Clifton. Now, one group of those people are the ones who want peace, quiet, retire. They don't want anybody near them. Okay. Then you have another whole group. The main reason that they're here is because they don't like all the rules in town and they want to do what they want on their own property. Those two views are in mutual conflict. They always will be. So the question comes, what kind of a town do you want to live in? Places like Reston, Virginia have decided they want to be restrictive and tell everybody what color house they can paint and whether they can keep cars in their yard. And
Clothesline on the front lawn.
This is the thing, and I like the way it is now. I mean, my experience, I always go back to where some of the stuff is. I was fairly fresh out of college and a little bit more, you know, I thought that people who had college degrees and engineering backgrounds and stuff could tell everybody else the best way to do things because, of course, that's what young people think they know. So, I was told, I was asked where I moved in from, and I told them originally from Maryland, and they said, how come every time this is in Plymouth, which is not a whole hell of a lot different than Clifton, okay? They asked me why every time people come in from other towns or away, that they want to make it look like wherever they were, and yet they come in and complain about wherever they were. I said, you probably have good points. So at that point, that was like my learning process, learning to listen to people who live in towns before I get there some more. Maybe this is how I've adapted now, because it did piss me off when I had the neighbors, but in a different way, I mean.
You know, I think we've got two members right on the board right here that are experienced, and we agree to leave the sentence out, and you've lived it, so.
Well, I think most of us have been. When I was much younger, I was sort of a staunch environmentalist until I learned how much of it was based on what you call it, junk science on a lot of it. There's still plenty of good things in it, but there's a lot of junk science out there.
All right,
Just leave it.
who's going to make a comment, Bruce?
I think this is, make it, and then I'll maybe might adjust a little bit. If you don't like it, I'll change it. Okay, she agrees with that.
No, she didn't.
This says DOA expanded plan, which would seem to be a good thing.
We cut a whole bunch out of it. And basically, my point to that was the original was unnecessary verbiage. It belongs in the comprehensive plan, not the LUO, if you take a look at it.
Okay, let me go back. What number was it again? 3.3.4.11.
What was the heading, so I can find it, cross-reference?
3.3.4.11.
Yeah,
You're
the
gonna
old-
have
the
to
old
look
one.
at the original
Yeah.
in order to go that.
What is it under? The current is 341.
11.
I don't have a 341.
It's right here. I don't know what.
Oh, I think that may be your new numbering system. And if you look at the
3.3.4.
original,
Okay.
33411.
We didn't make any. We didn't make any changes to it.
Okay, 3.8. Bill.
Huh?
Bottom of 3.8.
Yeah, 33411.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not showing any changes here.
Development overlay area.
11 got spread away from the 4 a little bit there.
Yeah. So if we go back, where would that be?
All we did is add, when a development overlay does not encompass a parcel, it just gets described by latitude and longitude.
It's on 3.6, Vern. At the bottom.
3.8, I have it.
And the old one.
And the old one's on 3A?
No, the new one.
Okay. Under the old one, there's a whole paragraph on defining development overlay areas.
We didn't change it. Bruce, this is 3.3.4.11. Expanded language seemed to be a good thing. She agreed with us. All we did is expand that.
I think she's referring to a different.
I don't think she is, Bruce. I think seriously, because we didn't change anything.
I thought we did.
We just added, yeah, we added the, when a development overlay area does not encompass an environmental, blah, quite a bit, that was.
That's all we added. We just added how to describe it geographically without latitude and longitude.
What did she say?
She said that she thought she liked it.
Okay, I thought she was referring to something else.
All right.
You said that was a good thing? Pat on the back.
Go for
I thought she was referring to a
it. Now
different.
back to Article 1.
Okay.
Article 1 point, the UN Agenda 21 thing. I'm like pretty hard over on leaving it in there, but she thinks it just is a controversial thing. One thing that's interesting about her perspective on this is she, in a couple of areas, she thinks it's important to have certain things in an ordinance form, okay? Because it means you can't change them as well. But so she's recommending for this that we put this just as a ballot in some annual meeting, which will be forgotten within 10 minutes when people walk out of this room. Okay? This leaves it in there in a codified form, permanently. At least for the time that this ordinance is in
Let me
existence.
play devil's advocate with you. I've heard of this, but I've never read it, and yet you're saying, you're making a statement, the town of Clifton does not subscribe to Agenda 21, nor does it support the initiative.
Right.
Why even have it? Yeah, why even put it in there?
Because Agenda 21 is this thing that says that we want to be subscribed to these international standards
Sustainable.
and what they call sustainable, and says that you're willing to go with their authority over the sovereign of the United States, over the sovereign of the state of Maine.
I think just by the very act of putting it in here is going to draw people to, well, I'm going to go investigate this Agenda 21. It just brings up more.
Well,
Conflict.
the UN has many other agendas as well, we don't address those.
I don't think it's a good
Human
place
rights
to
and
be
everything else, I'm not sure we.
I like it, but I'm afraid it's gonna gender too much controversy. I like it because I hate Agenda 21. I mean, these people literally, some of the ones in here want to somehow depopulate the earth down to only between 1 and 2 billion people.
Well, they want to depopulate Clifton, I know that. All these rural areas like this, they want us all to move to the cities.
Like the code of ethics, I don't feel that.
Where did this come from? What was the driver? But is it in the,
He's the driver of this.
Can I comment?
I mean, it's
Hang on a second.
kind of drawing an issue that, well, I don't know.
Steph has a comment, go ahead.
The reason why this is important to add in the land use ordinance and not other UN agendas is because they're using Agenda 21 to change local towns' land use ordinances to abide by these UN standards of environmentalism. So I think it is important to have in there. And as far as drawing attention and controversy, how many people are sitting here paying attention to what you guys are doing?
2.
I don't think anybody will even read it.
I mean, I wanted it in there because I just wanted to make the statement that we're not an Agenda 21 town. There are actually towns like Belfast that vote that they are Agenda 21 communities, like, open the door to all of this, we're just gonna, relinquish our sovereignty. And I want to make the political statement in this ordinance that we're not gonna do it.
Well, but you state in there, nor does it support the initiative, the implication being the whole town.
But we don't.
Well, they voted on it though.
Well, we're gonna.
I just have
Steph,
one
go
more
ahead.
further thing to say. I don't know if Debbie forwarded on an email that I had sent, but I wanted you guys to all get an invitation to a meeting tomorrow night in Hamden about this topic. Dr. Kaufman speaks on Agenda 21,
Let me
and
try to get over for that.
it's worth your time if you want to learn more about it.
And see, one of the things is, Paula wrote a lot of this whole ordinance. And she drew a lot from all of these model ordinances. And a lot of the ordinances in other towns that drew from model ordinances.
A lot of the stuff
And
is.
many of these model ordinances are based on people in Agenda 21.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. That's where a lot of this comes from, unfortunately.
Well, having come from the federal sector for most of my adult life, though, the federal government generally just steers away from a lot of the United Nations on, well, they make the thing on like human rights and all that, but like war crimes and everything else, they tend to stay away. It's,
Current administration tends to be in favor of that stuff.
And as it is, didn't we sign on to the, what was it, the thing of the child? I forget which one that is.
Trying to get us to sign on to the gun treaty too.
Mhm.
Well, that's another thing, you know.
Right, because this is part of the
That's
land use
treaty.
ordinance. I mean, you know, like if I could make it so that we aren't gonna sign on to that in town, that would be like an ordinance too, but this is a land use ordinance, not a gun ordinance.
Should there be a reference in there for further information,
And that is it. If you just type Agenda 21, you can go, it'll take you right to the UN website.
And just like if you're looking at the Green Party platform, don't look at the local, go to the national.
yeah.
Well, the other
That's
thing
where
is,
it'll scare you.
okay, in a different way, okay? So if we have all this other stuff in there to preserve and protect the character of Clifton and all kinds of other, you know, language that doesn't really have a direct, you know, regulatory link. It doesn't say, you know, the zone is here, okay? You know, so to me, you know, this is like a balance to some of that stuff. It says, yes, we want to have, we are going to preserve, we are preserving character and things like that to a certain point, but we're drawing the line at Agenda 21. Because what I don't want people to get the idea of, because some of this language that we do use in here talks about preserving the rural character and protecting the environment and all this other stuff and community development, you know, is not a lot dissimilar than Agenda 21. But the big thing with Agenda 21 is, you know, why you would want to not be for it is if you sign on to Agenda 21 and you support that, then you're saying that you're willing to sign on to this other entity that's on a global basis. What this is saying is, yes, we think that maybe some of the precepts of Agenda 21 might be important. It's just that we're going to implement our version of it here in Clifton. And we want to change it, we're going to change it. We're just saying that we're not going to comply with the global initiative. Even if it's the same words, we're just saying we're not going to comply with that authority. That's all it's saying.
I just,
Yeah. Well, no, it's good to ask the question. I enjoy
where I
it.
came from, I mean, that was kind of not,
It jumped off this, right.
like, you know, we just
Where's
never
this
had
from?
things like that in any kind of an ordinance or local.
We like to be cutting edge here.
So it just struck me as odd now, you know, I looked up, you know,
Well,
looked
you
up a
will
little
probably find that.
research. I just don't see where.
I mean,
Well,
they
let's
had
write
the
comments.
push behind things like this cluster development, which is in here. The idea is they want more people in tighter areas. Everybody should live in their little box in one little area, so they can have their shared water and their shared backyard, and all the land around, put a fence up and keep people out of it.
Bill and I went to a meeting where they wanted to have congested folks,
Yes, yeah, we went to Augusta for that, I remember that.
yeah, somewhere over in that neighborhood.
And it is a philosophy that most people that live in rural areas like this, if they really understand it, not really too hard on them.
Well, they want us not to live here. They want us to go move to Bangor.
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay,
I'll make a comment about the Agenda 21.
Yeah, take care of that.
Yours.
Town of Clifton and Eric Jones.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Oh, ain't good.
You can put my name on it too if you want.
Okay. Stephanie said. So,
All right, what's next for Paul?
I think that was all the comments. The only thing I did after that, I
Oh, good.
don't know as far as the This was just actually the ethics standards that she presented. This is the headings and the standards and the Eddington stuff, and these are the comments. And all I did with her comments was broke them out from here and put them in a format so that they're readable, but I wanted to have her original document, that's all it was. So if you send me a document, I can do that. I can reconcile the comments.
I'll do the minor changes here, we're discussed here, and I'll send it to you.
Clifton PB09@gmail. Clifton PB09.
I think,
I think
I
that.
got it in the computer, but.
Clifton PB09@gmail. And also send it to the town of Clifton AOL account too.
Okay.
Send them both to both accounts, and then it'll get in there next several days. So, any comments? You go ahead.
Earlier you guys spoke of the ethics draft policy that you had.
Yep.
Could you put that on online
Well,
too?
it's right here.
Yeah.
But for, I mean, other people that might want to look, you guys have been talking about it.
Yeah, I can get a copy of that digitally.
This was actually
Well,
done
actually,
in
this is what the select
November of
persons are
'05
working
is when
on.
this was done, huh?
This is what the select people are working on,
They're working on
yes,
Yeah.
the
Not
select board, not us.
We're not,
They never
it. It
actually,
says work in progress, November of '05.
yeah, but they're still working on it.
They're still working on it.
Slowly.
get digital from Debbie.
And Paula also stated that she couldn't find the planning board ordinance on her comments.
She was looking for something,
I was just wondering if we could
Okay,
get that
well,
online
okay,
as
I'm
well.
not tracking what you're saying because the original ordinance is there. And that's the current one that we have today. Okay,
You got all the land use ordinances, but in, when she was commenting about 3.1.1, she was talking about the planning board ordinance that she could think of, but she couldn't find.
With the duties of the planning board?
the powers and duties, yeah.
that one. That's a great question. I thought that this was redone. I don't know, we try to find you're looking for the original ordinance that
The one she was referencing that she couldn't couldn't find.
It's already done in 2005.
asked Debbie about the board authorization ordinance. I've seen it. I think, and it should be in that book of ordinances over there.
I'm sure it is, but
I'll ask
Maybe.
Debbie about that.
I mean, if we're going to be talking about it during these workshops, it'd be good to have it online too, I think.
I think it's like a one pager that says that the planning board is set up, or this establishes the boards. Anything else?
I have a question. The copy of this draft that I have only goes up to 13, Article 13. Do you guys have a draft that you're working on for 14 and up, or is it
Yeah, well,
posted?
this is what's going on here. What I'm trying to do is, when I get the stuff ready to bring into a meeting, I
Okay.
post it up here on this meeting material one, and then, like after tonight, I'm gonna take this 4 and 5 down because we made some adjustments or whatever. After we talk about it here, then, I move it over to these 2014 drafts.
Okay.
So, whatever we've talked about, so in the next couple of days, 4 and 5 are gonna show up here. So once we've talked about it, it shows up here. That's what's going on.
And then
Right,
before
so-
a meeting comes up for like Article 14 and 15 and on, you're gonna have them posted.
You got 14 already.
Right, 14's already here because we already started to make adjustments. So if you went here
Okay.
for Article 14,
That actually is the stuff that you moved Article 6 out of 14. You got it mislabeled, I believe.
Well, I think it says,
Or,
Step 6 on the bottom of the page.
yeah,
And it's got a,
you got it
Hang on a
mislabeled.
second.
You moved all the Article 14 stuff we agreed to take to 6. But you've got it called Article 14.
yeah.
okay, hang on a second, let me go back and look at that again, one sec. Yeah. Oh, you know, it's,
Yeah, well, that's actually Article 6.
I don't know, you got a 6 down at the bottom, then way down at the bottom.
I think you got 6 twice.
yeah, I think I might have 6 in there twice. I'll reprint Article 14.
Minus the definitions and perhaps that were taken out.
Yeah, so I need to reprint Article 14 to PDF and post. Okay, I'll do that too. All right, thanks for pointing that out. But that's basically what happens. So then once we have it chat here, go home, do whatever we said we were gonna do, and then sometime in the next 3 or 4 days, it'll be up back here under the drafts.
Okay.
Because the goal by April is to have gone through at least all these once, then make a presentation, a general presentation, and then have some copies printed out. Plus, it should be 1 through 18 of like roughly what we're hoping will be online at that point, before the public hearings will be there. It'll be, you know, printed in that format with all the different changes or whatever in the margin. Because then what will happen at the, right after we get done the second public hearing, then we'll start to go and make all the final adjustments. And then you'll start to see copies in the town office getting printed of what's probably going to become on the ballot in June. Because at that point we have like still, give or take about, you know, like 75 days or 60 days, something in that range before we have the vote in June.
Okay. I just want to make sure I could see what you guys are going to go over before, ahead of time, so I can have something.
Yeah, no, and it should always be in the meeting material. So like,
Okay.
even if you were going to look at, even like now, if you wanted to figure out, like, for example, if you wanted to know what we were going to do next week, what the easy thing to do, because all I'm trying to do before the meeting, for the most part, we have made some other, over the past year, we made some small adjustments and things like that. So all you really would be seeing is, for the most part, are renumberings. So if you wanted to know what we were going to talk about last week, you would go to the workshops, and you come down here to the schedule, and you'd see that next week was the 12th, and that we were going to do Article 6 and Article 7. So if you want to do that and know what we were going to talk about, you would go here and come back over here to land use ordinance, current one that we have, and come down here and find Article 6, wherever it is. Because that's what we're going to talk about, is that land use ordinance right there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the meeting material, to be current with that, you would go to the meeting material, and there'll be one in the meeting material the next day or two, this is Article 6, and it'll have the renumbered thing, so you'll be able to look at that. So that's how that would work. And probably a couple other small, well, actually, Article 6 is special because we moved a bunch of stuff out of Article 14 into Article 6.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a unique case. But normally, you know, like if you went back today and looked at Article, let's get really proud here. If you went back and you just looked at meeting material, again, you look at that, you see all I've done here is just literally renumbered it. And except for like that, that's something that Rick added, that's small. But that's basically what normally you would see before meeting.
Yeah, okay.
Article 6 is going to be an exception because of problems that we had in using it, starting all the way back with Frank.
Right.
We decided to completely change the format. We found it extremely difficult to use and confusing for the applicant.
Well, we didn't change the content, we just changed the layout for the most part in Article 6. We have not made many content changes in Article 6 or process changes yet. that's gonna happen though.
A lot of stuff scratched out.
So.
I would hope that we'd have some public participation in these presentation periods about, like, what Paula has done after we had done the first 3 articles. So that, you know, sometimes there's a differing opinion that we could, you know,
I really was hoping that we'd have more people doing presentations. In back of my mind, this is what I thought would happen. I thought for the things that people know are coming up that are important, that people would, like, say, if in like 2 weeks we were gonna talk about something that was important to somebody, they come in like, would have been here tonight. I mean, granted, it's snowing and stuff like that, but, you know, just academically, that 2 weeks from now we're gonna talk about something important. Somebody would have been in here tonight talking about what we're gonna talk about in 2 weeks, so that people would be prepared to talk about it intelligently and rationally in 2 weeks, not off the cuff. That's kind of was the goal of setting aside those times to talk about stuff, and I didn't make any restrictions. The only restriction I made was if there were like 5 people that wanted to present tonight and 2 of them wanted to present on Articles 4 and 5, you know, probably I was going to give the people who were in 4 and 5 top priority because that's what we're talking about tonight. But if nobody wanted to talk tonight, which is what the case would be, and somebody wanted to talk about Article 14 tonight, that would have been fine.
Well, it's not really, is it posted anywhere in the town office, or, I mean, I get the email notifications, but I've never, you know, I haven't seen anything about these workshops advertised anywhere.
Well, we did actually mention it like way back in January, what the whole schedule was. In fact, you were here that night. We went through the whole thing.
Right,
You
but
know?
no one else was here, so it's like, to advertise it to the public, you need to either put it in that email.
We did put it on Facebook, and we put it
Oh.
in on this front webpage. If you go to the home,
I know, I'm not on Facebook, and this
No, I
webpage
know.
is not, you know, nobody knows about it.
well, yeah, we'll try to do more advertising.
She's got an email list,
Yeah,
you know, and she, not, you know, it doesn't always happen, but sometimes I'll get like a meeting update or an agenda. You know, that's not,
Very
it's not,
consistent.
it's not consistent, but it would be good to have these workshops included in those notifications to people.
go ahead.
Well, like I was under the impression that you didn't want to hear presentations on something that hadn't happened yet. Like you set out the schedule, and we're going to do this article, this article, this article, and if you want to talk about them, make a presentation and give it to us on a different day that we're talking about something else. We didn't think it was going to be preemptive.
Well, it is. I thought, you know, I was trying to, because Paul asked a bunch of questions about that back in January. Now, I thought maybe it was my misinterpretation. I thought I was really clear about that because I wanted them to be. The only stipulation I made was, like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, if there were too many speakers, the speakers who are going to talk about the topic that night would get top priority. But we haven't had a problem with too many speakers yet.
Right.
But
I was under the impression that if we wanted to talk about something that you was going to talk about in March, that we'd wait until March.
you can bring it up now.
But we did that.
Okay,
That wasn't the
well,
impression.
Okay, well now you know for sure. Okay, definitely. Like I said, if somebody, the only time that you would drop out to like the 3rd or 4th position would be if 2 people wanted to talk about tonight's stuff first,
Right.
which is I think is fair.
Very understandable.
But you also said that you should come into the office and give a brief description of what you
Right.
talk about in your presentation.
Right. And Paula, I mean, I kind of made a little bit of an exception for Paula because she sent like a little bit of a pleading email on Friday afternoon saying she didn't have time to put together what she wanted to put together for tonight and asked if she could do it. And so I kind of gave in a little bit because she was a big author for this before, and she said she wanted to talk about 4 and 5 tonight. So I said okay, even though she didn't have her stuff in on Friday afternoon. Probably shouldn't have done that, but then as it turned out, we had a rough weather night and she didn't come anyway, so I didn't have to really work through that. But it's really not fair. Like if I let Paula not send stuff in until Monday or Tuesday before the meeting on Wednesday, and then I have somebody else come in and say, well, if I would have known I could have my stuff in today, I would have been here with whatever it is I wanted to talk about. It puts me in a little bit of a rough situation too. So and that's why I have it posted in there every Wednesday, so you have plenty of time. Like if 2 Wednesdays from now you wanted to make a presentation, you could get it in like a week from Friday, you know what I mean?
Right.
Because there's a lot of time. So have you ever been to the website?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so at least you know. Maybe you can pass it around to your friends or whatever, so they can. And you've been to this website, right?
I found it, oh yeah, I got it from Debbie. She gave it to me right after I moved here, and I went on to look at the comp plan.
Right. Right. Well, keep up on that website, and then like after tonight's meeting, sometime like in the next day or two, you know, I'll put some kind of like very short summary, like I did for the other meetings, you know, that kind of just encapsulates that we talked about stuff tonight. We went through the ordinances, you know, and then it'll say that we went back and reviewed the Paul's comments, and just make just like bullet comments about that, just so that people can get like it's a rough flavor for what happened. I'm trying to create, you know, as transparent of a record as I can for this stuff. So.
I like the process. I like how you have her comments and her documents and your comments, and it's good.
Right, but it should be, I appreciate that, you know, I mean, that's been the goal right along. Sometimes it just takes time to do stuff. This is quite time consuming. Go ahead.
Back earlier in the meeting when you guys were talking about the definitions for Article 18, and David said something about how he had sent you an email, and then you sent
Actually sent it to the town of Clifton, and then they forwarded it to me.
and then you sent him back a bunch of
I sent it to the town.
articles.
I sent down a bunch of links to the town, and then they forwarded them out to everybody.
Do I have to fill out a freedom of access to get that?
No, you can just ask Debbie, and she'll send them.
Everything that we've been just going through
If
the
you
town.
ask Debbie,
No.
if you want to be like on that mailing list, just ask Debbie, and she'll send it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, so we send it to her and then she's,
It's just a bunch of links for stuff pertaining to ordinance writing and stuff like that. It's just no
publicly available.
publicly available information. There's no comments. It just says go to review these links.
Thank you.
So you can just, Debbie, if you want to be on the list, have Debbie put you on the list and you'll get them. And you can have Debbie forward you all that stuff.
Okay.
You don't have to do anything that special for it.
Okay.
Anything else?
A lot of reading.
There's a lot of reading.
Yes,
One of them is like over 140 pages long.
yeah.
So, you guys have anything else?
No.
All right, somebody move for adjournment.
We adjourn.
We did that.
Yeah, we did this.
Well, that's right.
We're-
This is the workshop, we're good.